Well, it's been a while since I've done a video, and I've been checking out some videos on the people marrying, or I should say dating, uh, women with children, in particular black women. You know, you have all these baby mama, baby daddy drama, and I'm just wondering um, just how easy or how difficult it is for some in today's society to marry some of these women with children. I know in some cases it depends on the age of the child, and in some cases, let's just say the child is, I don't know, 10 years old, and you come into the child's life. Well, does the child easily accept you? Uh, is the situation going to be where it's as calm, or is it a very difficult situation where you're planning on marrying this woman? In a lot of cases, you meet a lady, and the lady normally has children or a child. Then you have to not only deal with the child, as I've heard somebody else say, but you also have to deal with the child's father. You have to take all that in consideration. And then some women say, well, my baby's daddy, he's in jail. Well, but that's still, you still have to think about that. Is he in jail for life? I mean, you have to really, you have to think about those kind of things. So, marrying or deciding to marry somebody with children, it brings about its own set of circumstances. I'm not going to say problems, but some people may say problems, but the things that you have to deal with. What if the child is, say, a teenager, and a teenage girl, and you decide you're going to marry a mom, and you marry the mom, but then you bring your own set of rules into the house as far as discipline. And then what if the child decides that they're gonna break your rules of your household? For instance, when little girls get 13, 14, 15 years old, they want to start having a little boyfriend. Maybe the girl wants to have a little boyfriend over, and for whatever reason, you decide she does something. Maybe she comes in late at night, and the first time you give her a pass. The second time, the curfew is she has to be on by midnight or 10 o'clock. If she's under 15 years old, under 16 years old, it's 10 o'clock. I mean, about 10. You give them a little bit of leeway if they're a little bit older, 16, 17 years old, maybe you say midnight. But let's just say she breaks the curfew, and then you decide after several times, and you've talked with the mom about it, that you're going to discipline her. And your discipline is you take away the cell phone, or you take away the computer, which upsets her. And the little girl decides she's going to get revenge on you some type of way. I mean, it happens. Because some of them think that they're in love with some of these little boys, and they'll do anything. So, what if, this has happened to a friend of mine. He had curfew, and the little girl broke the curfew several times. So what she did was she called CPS and said that he had molested her. Can you believe that? Yeah, that's what she said. Now, I've heard where it was a preacher who got into it with his child. I think that he had some curfew, and the police picked him up. But now think about if you're a step parent and a child calls in and says that you molested them. Well, what happened with him was they picked him up, took him to jail. And he not only had problems at home now with his wife that he had married, this little girl's mother, he had children of his own, and he was having problems now with his own kids. And this went on for 2 years. Finally, after more interrogation by the police department, they found that the little girl admitted that she had lied. I mean, my friend's life was all messed up. He lost his job. He lost everything. And the little girl's mom and they finally got divorced. I mean, he couldn't be in that situation. He couldn't live in that situation. I mean, there's a lot of things you have to think about. Now, what if it was a teenage boy and you decide that you're going to discipline your stepson because he did the same thing. He broke the rules of the house. And you gave him a pass. You talked to him. You did everything you possibly could. But he still broke the rules. Maybe you found some weed in the house. You didn't allow weed in the home. You know, some of these teenagers already smoke weed and things like that. And you decided you were going to punish him. And your punishment was you take away his cell phone and computer. And he decided that, no, you're not going to do that. And see, things like that could escalate into a fight. And again, you could be in a real difficult situation. I know there's some women who say, oh, my kids would never do anything like that. I raised them better. I did this, that, and other. But you never know how a kid is going to react with somebody they view as a stranger or somebody they view as trying to take their dad's place or even their place if they're young men. So, I mean, you just have to view each situation in its own right. I mean, because you never know. I mean, what if you decide you're going to marry this woman and the woman's, let's just say she's 38, 40 years old, maybe a little bit older, and she had kids at a young age. Maybe she was 18, 20, 22 years old when she had the kids. Now her children are of childbearing age. And what happens if the child gets pregnant? I mean, now you've married the woman, you've accepted the child, now you have the grandbaby you have to think about. And now if you're in law enforcement, you're a police officer, you're a fireman, you're an attorney, you're an engineer, maybe you have some high-stress job. Are you going to be prepared to come home and listen to a baby cry after you've raised all your children all grown and gone? But now you have to deal with that? Are you going to be prepared for that? I mean, there's all types of scenarios, and don't get me wrong, because I know there's some very good step parents out there. I know Steve Harvey, he did an excellent job with blending his family. He had rules, and I assume that it's working for him. But there's so many men, especially black men. I mean, one of the killers of us, things that take us out, is stress. Now, do you really want to be in a stressful marriage where you're kind of walking on eggshells, on pins and needles, and you don't, I mean, it's just a lot to think about when you're saying, I want to marry somebody with children. Then you have to think about the fact that if you marry the person, then how is the child's biological parent going to react? See, if you try and discipline them in your way, do they then call their biological parent and say, oh, you know, my stepdad, he won't let me go play basketball, or he won't let me go to the movies? And how is he going to take it? You know, maybe he came from a family whereas he didn't have a father. And he doesn't know the first thing about being a parent. All he did was drop the baby. And then you got to deal with that knucklehead. See, there's so many different things you have to consider when you decide that you're going to marry. I'm not talking about just dating. I'm talking about you're going to marry a woman with some children. And it depends on how many kids. Does she have 1, 2, 3? 3 different kids by 3 different babies' daddies, and then you got to deal with all. Oh man, that could be a That could be just a terrible situation, a whirlwind type of tornado, volcano waiting to erupt. So again, I mean, is that something that you're prepared for? I know with my son, I told him, I said, man, look, I said, whatever you do, you find your woman with no children. You start off with no kids. So that's something you can experience together. And I mean, in my case, if I married a woman with children, those children are going to be grown and gone. Or it's going to be a younger woman who does not plan on having any children. Because there are a lot of them around. They don't plan on having no kids. And mine are grown and gone, so I don't really have to worry about that. You just live a good life, you have fun, go places, vacation together, and just enjoy life. So what do you think? And again, it's not knocking any step parent, because I know there's some good step parents out there. There are some children who were raised by a good step parent, good stepdad. He took over the man's role. He raised them, and they became good, productive citizens. But again, it's in my opinion, it's a very difficult situation. It's something that you have to really think about if it's something that you can really do, because there's so much that could go wrong. And I know some people could say, well, it could go wrong if it was biological children. Yeah, but there's a difference. I mean, if you have a biological child and you've been in the child's life since its inception, that's a different scenario than walking into some kid's life and say the kid's 10 years old or 14 years old or even 18 years old. And you know, some of these women, if their child has a child and they're all there, then you got to take them as a package deal. You know, you have the mom, you have the daughter, and you have the grandbabies. And these women, they're not going to choose you over their grandchildren. You can forget that. So, again, in my case, I'd rather just not get involved in that. It's just too much for me. But for some men, I mean, they can deal with it. They have no problem with it. So, you know, let me know what you think about that. Is that something that you think is a difficult situation? Is it something that's easy? Would you recommend your children get involved in that? Would you recommend your son marry a woman with, you say, okay, we know that you can fall in love with whomever, but now, do you really want them to start off in a kind of a stressful situation that they're not used to? Wouldn't it be better if they started off together and learned together on raising their children, if that's possible? If it's not possible, well, what do you think? How would you react to that? Let me hear from you.